We welcome each and everyone to this amazing webinar that we have organized on this World Suicide Prevention Day. From the word suicide, we come across so many questions like how to deal with mental illness, how to handle stress, how to stop someone from dying. Is suicide is the only solution for all the problems? To give justice to all our questions, I would like to introduce our speaker, Miss Sana Oak ma'am, who holds a master's degree in counseling psychology. We are very grateful to have you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about how we can prevent suicide. As you know, suicide is one of the very important topics that has started, and I think it is a very important and a very delicate topic because what happens is we don't really understand when someone is about to commit suicide. We may feel that the person is enjoying a party tonight, but we get to know that the person has committed suicide in the morning. So it is very important to understand actually what goes on when someone is committing suicide or has attempted or is even thinking of suicide. So it is important for us to understand that suicide is, as we know, suicide is some action or an activity which leads to the death of a person, where the person takes his or her own life. And similarly, a suicide attempt is when someone attempts to end their life through suicide. Now, from here, we'll go ahead talking about uh, what are the causes that can lead to suicide, how can we prevent suicide, and also what to do with those people who are currently dealing with someone whom they have lost for suicide. There are various reasons for suicide, and one of them, the first one is a psychological issue. It can be any issue which can range from psychological issues to simple stress. So psychological issues include anything from any traumatic event that I've mentioned next. So traumatic stress basically is anything that could lead to a person becoming so vulnerable to end his or her own life. Now, traumatic stress could include anything from a failed relationship or issues in school or college or issues with friends, issues with the job profile. It could be any small thing which could be a big thing for a person but not for us. Traumatic stressful event could even be something as failing in an exam, which could lead to the person to become so vulnerable that he or she could go and commit suicide. Then substance abuse and impulsivity. Um, there are so many people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol. When you're high on drugs or you are heavily drunk, you don't understand what you're doing, and many times it is just pure impulse. For example, you might have a fight with a friend, and in a fit of anger, a person might just go and jump off from the building or just hang himself or herself because that person does not have the time or the opportunity to actually think through the fight that has actually happened. Similarly, even in substance abuse, many times you tend to have a fight while you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and you don't really understand, or you cannot rationalize what actually happens or what can happen after you commit suicide. So the person will just go and end his life. Then loss of fear or loss. So many times you face extreme fear for about anything such as losing a job or losing a close family member to some illness, or losing an admission in your most wanted college because uh, probably you fear that you might fail the board exams, or your percentage might be low. So uh, just by the fear of losing something, a person might just go and hang himself or commit suicide in other ways. If you remember, a few years back, there was a case in the papers where a girl committed suicide because she was blamed for copying in the exams when she actually did not. And then later, after she committed suicide and the investigation came off, it realized that she was not at fault and she had actually scored some around 80%. And that was actually something which could have been dealt with, but because the girl feared a loss of of an academic year or a loss of admission in any good college or the college that she desired, she ended up losing her life. Also, this could further lead to hopelessness when you feel disappointed in yourself, or you feel that you have disappointed someone else, or you have got some loss in your hand. You tend to feel hopeless. For that matter, I guess all of us have some other time felt hopeless at about anything that goes on in our life. But such people become so vulnerable and mentally weak that it becomes very difficult for them to actually face the situation, and they end up committing suicide. So, hopelessness can also come through chronic pain or any terminal illness, where a person who's very sick for a very long time or keeps falling sick continuously might feel that he or she is a burden on the people who are caring for that person. They might start feeling that death is much better than being a burden on someone else. So for them, suicide becomes an easier option and they start losing hope in life. So they end up committing suicide. Um, then there are so many people that are isolated socially. They feel that no one accepts them. They feel that they are unwanted in the social group. So they further get isolated and start feeling lonely, which also leads to this suicide. So what happens is it is very important for us to keep a check on people. In many instances, when people are aware that they need help and they actually can deal with the situation, they do not get any help, and that makes them even more vulnerable. They feel they're even lonely, even more lonely, and there is no one to help them through. So they further go on to commit suicide. Uh, Also, like it is very common to see an accidental suicide where they tend to make videos or play pranks about them committing suicide, where actually they don't. But sometimes these pranks go wrong and they end up committing suicide or they end up dying, which is called as accidental suicide. So these there are many other reasons for suicide also, which is simple stress or even anxiety, depression, which further leads to suicide or someone ending their life. Um, so it is very important for us to understand when the person is the most vulnerable to commit suicide. This is because sometimes we can actually tell when the person is going to commit suicide or is intending to, and further go out, reach out to them and help them so that they don't go and commit suicide. So the people continuously talk about death or talk about suicide, such as I wish I was dead, or I wish I was never born, or how is it to commit suicide? I wish I could do it. When a person keeps talking such sentence continuously, it should ring a bell to us that this person is definitely going through something, and that is why he's contemplating suicide. And we could end up seeing the person dead in a few days or within a few hours too. Many times you could actually see someone buying very dangerous stuff such as oil or maybe matchsticks or blades or knives which are sharp, or even sharpening the knives which the person has at home, and even searching for ways online as to how to commit suicide. It is very important to understand that even though a person is saying that I'm just searching them for fun, or I have been buying the stuff because I've been told to, it is important for us to always cross check and keep a close view, because we never know whether the person is actually getting it genuinely for something, or whether the person is coming to getting all this because that person is intending to commit suicide. There are a lot of times when we are hopeless, and as I said before, we get hopeless in situations, and we talk about how hopeless we feel or how bad we are feeling. But this is the time, if we ignore these things, the person might feel that it is better to commit suicide. Or if we validate the sentence by saying that, yeah, no, but what can we do? We can't do anything. You have to deal with it. It is more of validating the feeling of hopelessness, and the person feels even more the urge to commit suicide. Um, then there are people who engage in self-destructive behavior, which needs to be dealt with immediately. So I had this client whose sister was extremely suicidal, where she had attempted suicide twice by self-destructive behavior, where once she just jumped off the scooter that her mother was driving, and the second time she just set off certain clothes of her on fire in a room by closing all the windows and the door. So this was the time when her parents really had to rush her first to the hospital to get her treated physically, and then to the counselor to see what is actually going on with her, like why is she so suicidal. And then with further treatment, she was actually cleared of all these suicidal thoughts, and her suicidal attempts stopped. Then it is we don't really randomly call people and tell them that goodbye, have a nice life, and I'm sorry for whatever I've done to you. You don't really randomly call people and say that. So if any of your relative or any of your friend ends up calling you or saying that thank you, and I'm sorry for whatever wrong I've done, or forgive me and stuff, so it is instead of making fun and just brushing off the topic, it is important for you to sit down and talk with the person as to what is actually going on and why is the person doing this. And also, it is not really common to see us giving away our possessions unless we don't really need them, or we are shifting to another place and we don't need them at that place, or it is unnecessary stuff. So it is really very important that we actually look into all these signs, and even if we see at least one of the sign, it is important for us to immediately take control of the situation. Now, there are many times that we tend to get overwhelmed as to, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say to that person. So it is very important to first ask about about why is the person showing such symptoms. Um, Obviously, it can get really awkward at times and a little tricky to directly ask the person as to why a particular action, a suicidal action, is shown. But it is important to explain to the person that it can be dealt with, and suicide is not the only option. There are other options. So it is very important for us to first talk to the person as to what is exactly going on, and take each action individually and deal with it. Secondly, after not everyone is a professional to immediately start working on the issue. So it is important for anyone who first sees the destructive or any suicidal action to talk to any adult in school, if it is a child, or at home, uh, or any immediate relative of the person who is portraying these actions. It can be very, very tempting to start helping the person on your own, saying that, oh, it's okay, it is just saying that it is not the end of the world, or you should do this and you should do that, and it's so easy to deal with someone. But it is not actually a very good idea to start helping the person on your own unless you are a professional in dealing with suicidal thoughts or suicidal tendencies, because sometimes what may seem a very small reason to us might not be a small reason to the person who is vulnerable to committing suicide. For us, probably losing a job is not that important, because for us, we might just get some other job. But for the person who is suicidal, that for that person it might be a big thing, because maybe he comes from a poor family, or he's the only person who's earning at home, so the entire family is dependent on his salary. So sometimes unknowingly we tend to belittle the problem, which can further lead to bigger problems to that person. There are various helpline numbers and sites and online NGOs which you can always just call, and the person, a professional sitting on the other side, can talk the person through this until the person who's suicidal actually sees a counselor to start therapy. I have added a helpline number for suicide in this PPT. So I will definitely share it with you. So again, let's talk about how to prevent suicide. Um, okay, so first, it is the most important thing is to first listen to someone who is expressing suicidal thoughts about, or about not feeling emotionally fine. Many times, a person who is not feeling emotionally fine, which means feeling extremely sad, or just not feeling like it, might also be a sign to tell you that he or she might be thinking about suicide, or might further go on to think and attempt suicide. So it is very important to first listen to everything that the person says without judging him or her. Whenever someone talks about suicide, you should never shrug it off by saying कि होता है यार, इतना सोचना नहीं चाहिए हमें. You never say such words, because as I said, a thing might be very important to that person, which might not be that important to us. So it is very important that we understand the person, listen to that person, and acknowledge the problem and give due importance to it. Um, as I said, not everyone of us are professionals in dealing with suicidal thoughts, so it is important for us to immediately seek professional help. We might not know any counselor around who can help the person, so there are always helpline numbers where you can call, from where you could further get links to any counselor, or talk to any adult or your teacher or someone around. Or always you can go on the sites of NGOs where they will give you online therapy sessions, or maybe even face to face. Therapy, so this is a big misconception overall, where they feel that once we go to a therapist, we'll immediately get results. But one should understand that therapy is a process which does not give you immediate results. So a person who is suicidal, who starts getting therapy, might not stop feeling suicidal immediately from the next session. He might take about 3, 4, 5 sessions to start feeling better. So it is important for us to remind the person that it's okay and it's going to take time, but it's going to eventually work out, and we are going to be fine. Also, there are many times that the person might be feeling a lot of things, but might not actually open up and say it. So we have to always probe the person to talk more, and so that the person talks about everything going on, so it becomes easier for us to pinpoint a reason why is the person committing suicide or attempting suicide. Um, it also it is important for a person to start mixing with others, because the more alone you stay, the more you think about your problems, think about suicide if that is on your mind. The more you go out with people, the more you have other topics to say. Probably there could be someone who just says something casually which could motivate you to work better or deal with your problem. So it is important for the person to keep be engaged in various activities which could reduce the suicidal tendencies, or at least help the person to deal with it better. If you feel that the person is extremely suicidal or is going to attempt suicide anytime, it is mandatory to immediately call the suicide helpline number, so that they can have the professionals talk the person through this and at least stop him or her until the client gets a proper therapist for the talk therapy. So it is till now we have always spoken about how to stop suicidal tendencies, or how to stop people from committing suicide, or like how do we know a person is suicidal and all. But it is also important to deal with those people who have already lost someone to suicide. Many times, those who have lost someone to suicide may also become suicidal. Um, that is again because one of the reasons is loss of someone loved. First thing, we need to again keep talking to them about uh, what are they feeling, how are they feeling, and keep checking on them as to whether they're doing fine, whether they need help. Help means not just food and emotional support, but also any professional help in dealing with the loss, maybe because they have not yet dealt with it properly. uh, as whenever you lose someone to suicide, or for that matter any way anyone is dealing with death, it is important that you seek professional help for them through professional counselors who can help the person deal and come in terms with the fact that the person is dead, or the person has taken his or her own life, and what can be done next. Whenever you tend to lose someone, never tell the person that it's okay and it's going to pass, because that is not what the person really wants. Sometimes a person is very close to you, and it is difficult for that person to just forget about the person who has passed away, or just forget about the fact that the person has just taken his or her life, because death is a very very important thing. So it never helps for telling someone who has just lost someone to death or suicide by telling them, "अरे यार होता है, just get over it." या फिर कोई नहीं होता है, never say that. Always acknowledge the death, give due importance to it. When I say give due importance, I mean that sympathize with the person. You should always take them somewhere where they feel comfortable, seek professional help where it becomes easier for them to deal with it, but not forget the loss. So uh, there is an NGO called as ASRA, which works on those people who are extremely suicidal, or are contemplating suicide. Also, I have provided with a number which is a suicide helpline number, where you can always call if you feel that the person is extremely suicidal, or the person is going to commit suicide anytime. You can also call this number if you feel that you are not aware of anyone who can further give counseling support, so they can give you various leads, or even counsel the person who is contemplating suicide if necessary. So this was what my presentation was about. If anyone has any doubts, questions, or want to discuss anything, you can always go ahead and ask questions or probably throw your thoughts or what you feel about what suicide is. It's on you now.
Ma'am, we have some questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Um, so suicide is not the only way all the time. Like when you might feel that now it's the end of the world, I have failed an exam. So now what? How am I going to go and show my face to the family? I won't get an admission. I obviously, like, it is very normal for us to think about these things and feel really hopeless. But um, suicide is not the end of it, and suicide is not the only way to deal with any situation. I hope I've answered this question. Um, so anxiety is a very it is a very bad thing when it gets too much. Anxiety is something that we face on everyday situations, but sometimes it gets so bad that we end up committing suicide. And uh, I think one of the ways by accidental suicide is one of the types of suicide that can take place due to anxiety. But when there is anxiety, you should always remember that there are various methods such as deep breathing to control anxiety. Sometimes there is a ball that you get which you keep pressing it. It is a soft ball which you keep pressing that reduces the anxiety. Also, whenever you feel you're anxious, it is always better to talk about it to someone instead of keeping it into your mind, which can further lead to something very undesirable, such as self harm, or further, it can even lead to suicide for some people. So, it is always better to first let out your anxiety by first talking to someone, or simple things such as writing um, it down about what is uh, causing anxiety to you, and taking proper therapy sessions for that will also help. Um, then um, again, the online numbers or the helpline numbers are not always the best option, because they're meant for completely they're meant for basically talking the person out of committing suicide at that point of time. So you should never really completely 100% rely on those numbers saying that if I call it, I'll be fine. First, the priority is to make the person stop and not commit suicide at that point of time until the person actually gets into proper therapy with a counselor, or maybe on medications if it is very serious, for the person to stop having thoughts or attempting suicide, or for that matter, even committing suicide, which is the last step. Um, so again, emotions are really a big thing which can get out of hand. There are many disorders based on emotions. So it does get difficult for us to manage emotions. But at the same time, you need to understand that at times it is not right to suppress all your emotions, be it positive or negative. It is always necessary for you to let it off. If, for example, if you're feeling happy, just express your happiness. If you're feeling sad, or if you're feeling bad, just express it. Of course, it's not that if you feel suicidal you should go and commit suicide, because that is how you express it. But it is what I mean by saying express it means to talk about it yes, this is how I am feeling, this is what I am feeling, or always write it down, or majorly talk about it to someone whom you trust the most. Always go and talk to that person. Maybe again that person might not be a professional, but you never know that that person might just say something to you, and that can just motivate you out of nowhere, or that can further lead you. That person can help you to go through a counselor and get your emotions in control. And also there are self control techniques that we have, such as uh, meditation or yoga, that further help you to control your emotions. Through counseling, you will get various methods by which you can deal with your emotions without going on asking someone to listen to you all the time. Um, Again, as I've said, helplines are not the only option or the last resort. They are primarily based for you to go and talk the person through suicide, just in case the person is attempting or on the verge of committing suicide. And but the safest way to get the person out of this out of these thoughts is to go and talk to a proper trained counselor face to face, which can help him or her to deal with it subtly. And it will be a process which will not really make the suicidal thoughts come back to the person. Any more doubts or any more thoughts?
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask a question?
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are times when people don't know how to tackle with their problems. So, like they think if
Hmm.
they try to solve some kind of problem, they'll end up hurting themselves. So, instead of solving those problems, they choose suicide as an option.
Hmm.
So, how do we tackle, like, make up our mind that we would like to tackle?
So first, the most important thing is that first we have to build a protective net around ourselves. Protective net, which means that a few people, maybe two or three of them, whom we trust the most. That if we sometimes, as you say, we feel really hopeless, like I don't know what to do. Because we're so messed up, the brain is so filled with emotions that it can't think straight. So it is always necessary to build a security net around us, which could have friends or family or any teachers or any relative whom you trust the most. Sometimes it you could just talk to them, discuss with them all. But again, sometimes not everyone is available whenever you want them to. So there are other activities, such as just writing it down, or sometimes just venting out your emotions, such as crying, or just talking aloud just to the walls. Because sometimes all you need is to vent out your emotions, um, that about feeling sad. If you're feeling like crying because you're feeling hopeless, just cry it out, so that at least this emotion is let out, which can probably might help you to think clearly. So there is like, I might do this but might not help, or although I have a security net, maybe there might not be, or neither of them might be there to help us. But at the same time, you should always have those things with you. You should always have your personal diary. That is my personal opinion, where you note down all your thoughts, so that next time when you are facing something similar, you can always go through the earlier thoughts and see how you have actually dealt with it and come out of it, which could probably give you tips. Or it could just be a venting session in your diary, or anyone. Also, it is always necessary to have a therapist or a counselor's contact with you, so that you can always just call up your counselor and talk to him or her, saying that, ma'am, I have this and this issue. I don't know what to do. When can I talk to you? It is always necessary to have a counselor's number with you, because they are, at the end of the day, they are professionals. They have dealt with so many cases which are similar to suicide or hopelessness, or emotionally driven decisions, which could lead to harmful decisions to ourselves or others around us. So it is always necessary to first talk, have a security net, or have your own activities which could calm you down, but not bring suicidal things, because once we hear suicide, we tend to get even more vulnerable to going towards it. Um, so again, why we become so vulnerable to commit suicide? First thing is because there is lack of trust in us or in people around us, or there is fear where we feel that अगर मैं घर पे गई ये marksheet लेके, so maybe my parents are going to beat me up because I have failed. Probably, they might scold you, yell at you, but at the end of the day, I think it is important for us to have trust on them, that it's okay. They might scold us, they might not talk to us for 2 days, 3 days, but at the end of the day, they are going to be the ones who are going to come and help us out and to like what to do next. So I remember watching a movie where this girl, her parents were extremely close-minded, not to talk to boys, not to have a boyfriend, and very suffocating. And she ended up getting pregnant because she just rebelled against her parents. And then later, because she was pregnant, she was very scared to go and tell her parents about it, so she eventually went to some clinic, which is, I don't know whether it was registered or not, and got some abortion done, which completely failed, and eventually she had to be also hospitalized, and she was critical because everything, her body kind of gave up because of the entire procedure. So at that point, it was really sad to see the parents saying that she never thought us, her own people, we would have scolded her, we would have yelled at her, but we would have definitely taken her to a good hospital and got her treated. So at this point of time, it is important that in such situations, we do get really, really vulnerable to do something that can harm us. So again, it is important for us to understand that go and talk. If you see a person is behaving a little different from what he or she usually does, talk about it. The person could actually be contemplating suicide, must have got really vulnerable. So it is important for us to understand the person, trust the person, and for us to build our own security nets where whenever we are vulnerable, we'll have someone to talk to so that we can deal with it. Um, so again, there are people who to reach out to people. They try to go and talk to someone that, I don't feel like giving up on this, but I can't help it. The only thing I can see is to commit suicide. So it is very important again for us to understand, never brush off anyone saying कि छोड़ ना क्या ये सब बकवास था क्यों, why are you thinking about all this? It is very wrong on us to just shrug off or brush off these topics. It is important that if a person says, I feel like committing suicide, talk to the person, take him or her to the counselor. Again, when you are extremely vulnerable, that is when you actually feel extremely drawn towards the easiest way to deal with the problem. And committing suicide at times is the easiest method that we see. So, again, it is important for us to understand that when a person is extremely suicidal, he or she will keep feeling like committing suicide every now and then. It is our duty to talk them through or take them to a professional who will help the person actually deal with it. Many times, those people who are really having chronic thoughts about suicide could probably even need medications to first deal with it and then further go for counseling. So you have to understand what the need is, and if you're not a professional, you will not understand what is actually happening. So go to a psychiatrist, go to a counselor, talk to them. They might really give a way ahead which can help the person actually deal with it and never really go on to that part. Um, again, toxic people, as in those like toxic people is very subjective. For me, someone who is lying might be a toxic person, or someone who is being rude is a toxic person for them. But the only way to avoid toxic people is to first define what you want in life, what kind of people you want to be surrounded with. Once you are very clear on that, you set your boundaries, you will automatically start staying away from those people whom you don't want to be with, or with those people whom you feel are causing emotional or mental stress to you. Um, then addiction, again, there are times that we are so used to a person, and then suddenly the person starts behaving in a different way that starts hurting us. So again, there could be a reason for it. Always better to first go and talk to that person face to face. Ask him that what is going wrong. Why are you behaving like this? After a point, if the person is still not ready to cooperate, it is always better to move away from that person. It is going to hurt. We might feel like keep going back to that person, or we may start self blaming ourselves कि मेरे वजह से शायद that person is not behaving properly with me, मेरा तो कुछ गलती नहीं हुआ है. But at the same time, you need to realize that everything is not always about you. It could be possible that the person might have something which you don't have in your hand. The person might be going through something which shayad the person might not want to share with you. The person wants to move away from you. So it is always better to not take the responsibility of others' behavior for us. You should stop considering yourself responsible for others' behaviors all the time. If you know it is your mistake, and still after apologizing and saying if the person still doesn't want to come to you, fine. You have to understand your limits, your self respect, and then accordingly behave. Because sometimes such times in certain relationships break, where the person starts becoming toxic to you, or you realize that the person is not behaving well with you. Sometimes even such things further lead to suicidal thoughts and even suicide. So it is very important to understand your limits, what is important for you, and behave accordingly. Um, uh, so again, like if you are on medications, don't expect medications to start working immediately. Like it is similar to say if we take a medicine for cold, and you won't stop having cold the next morning, or by just before you take the next dose, it's not that you're going to have your cold gone down. It is going to take at least 3 days, 4 days for you the cold to actually go down. So when it is the same thing with psychiatric medications, that is whenever you're on a medication, always take it. Don't stop, because your body is not going to show the signs, or it is not going to show improvement immediately as soon as you start taking medications. It is going to take at least a week or two for the symptoms to stop and improvement to show. So, uh, have you been having proper consultations with a psychiatrist? Even that is important, because the psychiatrist also might change the course or whatever it is. It is better to talk to a psychiatrist about medications, because I don't understand about medications. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a psychologist. So whenever it comes to medications prescribed by the psychiatrist, always better to go back to him or her. So yeah, anything more?
Ma'am, I had another question.
Huh.
Even today, like there is stigma regarding, seeking professional help and stuff, and there are many people who can't afford to like get professional help because. So, what can they do? Like,
So, first thing about stigma, it is up to you for a person to decide whether are you going to get yourself affected due to the stigma associated to mental health professionals. So what is important for you is to feel burdened because of the stigma or to get help from the right person. Because if obviously if you have a stomach issue, you are not going to go to a brain doctor. You are definitely going to go to a stomach doctor. Similarly, if you are having, if you are feeling bad or emotionally low, a counselor will help is the best person to go to, because obviously a doctor will not, an MBBS degree doctor will not be able to help you because he will not understand how to deal with stress. So you have to make others also understand that what is important is to seek the right kind of help, or to get burdened under the stigma. Again, second question about affording it. So there are many institutes which give you consultations at half the price. So in Thana, there is this institute called as the IPH, where if you appeal to them that we are not economically very strong, they give you the services with the best psychiatrists and counselors at half the price. And if you can afford it, you can always go and give whatever the full amount of fees. Even if you need psychiatric medications, there is a chemist which the institute has a tie-up with, which gives you medicines at half the price. So there are institutes which will consider your case and lower your consultation and medication fees if needed. Medications if needed, and consultation fees at half the cost. Medical needs if needed, in the sense that if they need medical advice that is psychiatric medicines, then those fees also will be waived off at least 50%, or maybe even more than that, just in case you really can't afford it. Anything else? Um, so it is actually the counselor or therapist who decides which therapy is best for you all, because every person behaves or functions in a different manner. Sometimes a particular therapy might work with one person, but another person with the same issues might not respond to the exactly same therapy. Sometimes uh, sometimes what happens is a therapy might stop being effectful for the person midway. So the counselor decides how to mix and match therapies, or which therapy to use the person after a couple of sessions of history taking and understanding the issue that the person is facing and how the person thinks and functions. So it is always best to leave it on the therapist or the counselor to decide what type of therapy should be used for you. Um, Okay, about intrusive thoughts. Again, if you have OCD, that is obsessive compulsive disorder, where you're constantly obsessing or having a compulsion to do something, you have to first see whether at what extremity it is. Because if it is really extreme, medicines will be the best option. Therapy will not work. So it depends on how, what intensity you have your intrusive thoughts. If it is very mild, it is always better to have self-control and to understand that you need to stop having those thoughts unless it is really necessary. If it is extreme and you feel that that is not helping, maybe talk to your psychiatrist who can help you deal with the thoughts with medications first, and then go ahead for just therapy. Um, so basically we are humans, okay? We tend to get emotionally attached to any person or anything very easily. And of course, it is very difficult to get off it. So at times, when it comes to self-respect, it is necessary for us to understand uh, whether you are important or is that person important? Definitely, sometimes we are so vulnerable and so desperate that we need that particular relation in our life that we just let go of our self respect. But always keep this in mind, you are the most important. The moment someone else starts controlling you, you have started losing your self respect. So, whenever this happens, in that case, you should start self controlling. You should start understanding what your boundaries are, what are you expecting from that particular relationship. If those relationship is not meeting with your expectations, it is always better to move out or take a step back, even if it hurts a lot. Sometimes stepping back will not help you immediately, but you should always keep reminding yourself as to why are you stepping back, and is it necessary for you to lose your self-respect again and again for the person who is not respecting you. Always keep in mind your own self-respect, what you want from a relationship, is it getting fulfilled, and always remember you are always more important than the person in front of you. It's not about that. Sometimes it takes time to see results, sometimes it does not. So it is necessary for you to keep patience, because again, it is tough. Keeping patience is tough. Continuously seeing failure initially is tough, because counseling and medicines take time. So all you need is just a little patience, and talk to your psychiatrist and your counselor. Probably they could help you, because like I don't know your case completely, so I can't really give a judgment. But since your psychiatrist and counselor knows your history, it is better to talk to them about exactly what is annoying you, or what do you expect from the therapies and from these medications. Anything more? Anyone else? Uh, First of all, sexual abuse trauma, it is difficult. So it is always good, or the best option to first talk to a counselor about this. I keep saying go back to a counselor, go back to a counselor, but that is actually the most needed thing right now, because sexual abuse is something which can really, really traumatize a person if not dealt with properly. There are various therapy sessions, therapies that will help you to get through the trauma. And about people pleasing, again, understand your self worth. Understand that it is not always necessary to keep everyone happy. Sometimes you need to be happy, even if that does not make the person feel good about it, because at that point of time, you are the most important person. And if that is genuinely making you happy, or it is making you content, just keep behaving as it is. Anything, any more questions or thoughts?
I think, yeah,
Question,
okay.
guys.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, First is to stop blaming yourself, having like stop self-blaming, and stop holding yourself responsible for everything that you do, for any mistake that you make. You should first stop holding yourself responsible or blaming yourself all the time. This will just reduce you from punishing yourself, and also to stop expecting too much from yourself, and knowing your capacity and how much you can go ahead and deal with it.
Ma'am, can I know why you took up psychology and like what made you take up psychology? Like what something?
Uh, So actually, it goes back to ninth standard when I was actually confused whether I should take science or whether I should take arts, and I was 100% sure about not going into commerce for some reason. But we had home science as one of our subjects in for ninth and 10th, and that told us about like everything, a little bit of psychology, a little bit of interior designing, a little bit of cooking, and stuff. So somehow the psychology part held my attention and my interest. And when I went in 10th standard, it kind of increased even more because for me it got interesting. To be honest, back then I didn't even know that this part is called as psychology. So when I went and spoke to my home science teacher, she said that no, you actually have a completely different field called psychology where you can, do your bachelor's and your master's in it. So then that actually confused me even more, like whether I should go for science because I loved biology, but I hated chemistry and physics, and maths was like no big headache for me. But I for biology I felt science I should go for science, but then I had this interest for psychology, so I had this big dilemma. So after my 10th, my parents got me into this aptitude testing thing. And there it came out that for me, psychology or sociology or social work, home science, that is the best thing for me, career options for me, because looking at my interest and my personality, according to the aptitude test, it said that psychology or sociology matched everything. But still I was in two minds. So I checked out the books of 11th and 12th of my cousin and a friend of mine, where my cousin had taken arts and my friend had taken science. So after seeing the books, I realized that I can't deal with science anymore. 11th and 12th physics, chemistry, I can't deal with it. And arts, whatever study material I read, I actually found that to be really interesting. Like not just psychology, but even the other subjects of arts. So then I decided that, okay, fine, let's go in for arts and let's take up psychology. So then I took up ISC psychology, like back then humanities, which was still a little like tricky, but I took it up and I actually started enjoying psychology. I started enjoying languages. Basically enjoyed studying the art subject, and I really didn't regret as such that why did I take up arts? I should have taken up science. I till date I never regret taking up that. Then later I went in for my bachelor's in Ruya, and it was again a difficult choice because I had to choose between history and psychology. So again, that was like, what should I do? But then later I saw the degree books of psychology which were used in degree college, and I realized that this is it. And I again went for another aptitude testing after 12th, which again said I should go in for psychology. I enjoyed the study material, and also I felt that I like to help people deal with their issues. So I thought, why not help them in a professional manner where I will be satisfied that I am helping others, and also they will get a proper way how to deal with their problems once they are finished with the counseling sessions with me. And then later but I still kept seesawing between political science and psychology until my second year of college. But then once I gave my semester 3 exams, I realized that psychology it is. The more in depth I went and started studying about psychology, I realized that I would really, really want to go ahead only with psychology. So like later I went, started doing internships for psychology with special schools, completed my graduation with psychology, full psychology, then went in to do my master's because that was the only way by which I could help me to focus on various therapies to help people. Because with only a bachelor's degree, I wouldn't really be a professional per se. So I had to go in for my master's, and then I realized that I really like dealing with kids. So I went on with my second master's from Liverpool, which I'll finish now next month, which where I deal with kids, specifically with kids. So yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that is like how I ended up becoming a counselor.
Any tips for people who wish to pursue psychology as a career?
Uh, as if you are really looking into psychology as a career, first understand that psychology is not only about talking, it is also statistics. At least in your if you take full psychology in your undergrad, you are going to have testing and psychology, so you are again going to deal with numbers, so be ready for that. At least for your bachelor's and at least one subject in masters, you are going to have statistics, so be ready to deal with numbers even if you haven't dealt with numbers after your 10th or 12th. uh, but then that's again easy, so don't get so frightened out, but be ready to deal with numbers. Then dealing with people, now that you are a therapist, people come to you with problems more than to you saying that, oh, you know what, I just came to tell you that I cleared this, or this positive thing has happened. People come to you very less with such topics, rather they come to you to complain about things or to post their problems on you. So don't be very hopeful that, oh, I'm going to help people. It gets really mentally and emotionally draining at the end of the day when you're continuously listening to people's problems and giving them suggestions and options as to how to deal with it. And also be ready to go to a therapist yourself at the end of a month or maybe 2 3 months, because you tend to get bogged down or really sad, or not sad but a little burdensome, because you're continuously dealing with people's negative issues. So be ready and open to go to a therapist yourself. But at the same time, if you really enjoy psychology, you should definitely get into it, because psychology also does not always mean going into pure testing or finding out various tests. So where you necessarily need not really deal with patients, or you could go into teaching where it is all about teaching and making the people understand the concept and not really always listening to people. So, but then over a period of time, you will definitely deal with it. Uh, when I started practicing counseling initially, first 2 3 months, I was really drained emotionally. But I think over a period of time, I've learned to deal with it and not get affected after a point with all the negativity that the people share with us. So yeah, it is a process. So don't worry, if you are interested in it, do go for it. But be ready to face issues such as going to therapy yourself or dealing with the numbers if you don't really like them. Um,
I have one question.
huh.
I have been diagnosed, as I said, I have been diagnosed with severe OCD, depression, and anxiety. And my psychiatrist has told me that it will take 5 years to completely recover from these illnesses. And I have been diagnosed with normal OCD and pure OCD. Uh, and pure OCD is not completely treatable, मतलब curable. वो पूरा curable नहीं है, but it can be treated with medicines. So how to keep patients up till 5 years? Like 5 years is a long time.
Hmm. So, see, again, 5 years is definitely a long time. But first, you need to keep patience in the sense that the medicines are going to start showing effect after a point. So, once they start showing effect, you will on your own start getting motivated to take medicines, and not necessarily like 5 years means 5 years. If your body starts responding well to it over a period of time, maybe the psychiatrist will wean you off from the medications even before 5 years. So usually they give a longer period time frame that it's going to take 5 years, but sometimes it could get done even before 5 years. It is all dependent on how the body reacts. So for that, you need to keep telling yourself it's okay. I'm going to be good, and I'm going to I'm going to keep at it. Just keep it. Don't look at 5 years as a whole. Just keep looking at every month. Because if you look at 5 years as a whole, it is going to be overwhelming, and you are going to feel stressed out about it. And then the medications are not going to help you at all. So it is necessary for you to keep patience and deal with it with every day or every month. Just keep taking your medications, and whatever issues you feel, talk to your counselor and your psychiatrist. They will definitely give you a way around.
I hope all your doubts are clear. And if you have any, then you can contact ma'am later. Okay? Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an informative and amazing section. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I would like to call Retracted Arya for vote of thanks.
Hello, I am Protractor Arya Vidya. First of all, thank you, Sana ma'am, for this amazing session. It has been very, very informative. And this topic is very important, and we are very happy that you've taken up this opportunity. Secondly, thank you, Rotaract Club of Thane Midtown, for arranging this session.